Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is our big conversation, a part of Beyond Film series at the festival. And I'm the lucky curator of the series, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy you're here, more importantly. So thank you. And I have to say, this is one of those conversations that I'm not supposed to say this, by the way, but I'm really very excited about it because it's something we've been planning for a while now, while trying to find solutions to our burnout situation and the fact that we've all been feeling slightly less inspired than we wanted to. And we thought instead of sitting around complaining, we actually do something about it. And we thought that the best person to moderate a conversation like this would be the nap bishop, someone who specializes in rest as resistance, and that's Trisha Hersey, who's joining us today to moderate. And I just want to say that we're so lucky that she's here because she's not a filmmaker, you guys. She just came for this. And this means a lot to us. And she's bringing with her some incredible artists whose films are in this festival. And they will talk to you about, well, all these things that they feel like talking about. And hopefully you ask some questions as well. Just make them actual questions, not comments. There's no pitching around here. We don't do that at the Filmmaker Lodge. So make them really good questions and enjoy. And now I will leave you in the most capable hands of Trisha Hersey.
Hi, everybody. Y'all, energy, hi. I mean, come on. So glad to be here. I'm honored. I want to bring up the beautiful panel. Let's bring up Adrian. Come on, y'all. Clap up for Adrian. Thank you, Adrian. Let's bring up Ruth. Ruth, come on up. Thank you, Ruth. Let's bring up Jonathan. Jonathan, come join us. Everyone get comfortable, get seated. Have some water. We have water here. So who's tired? Can we raise our hands? Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to talk to the exhausted people. And I really want to, I'm so excited for this conversation. I'm excited for the fact that it's called the big conversation. That's something, right? Because when it's like a big conversation, I'm like, we need to talk. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, wow, what's going to happen? And so I think that we can't really start something that's called a big conversation by like rushing into it. I know everybody wants to get to it. Let's get going. But I've been here for one day. And the pace already is so much here. Like, I'm overwhelmed. I want to, like, go back to the hotel and lay down. I was out last night, and it was so hectic that I just met two random people, and we shared an Uber together because we were like, we have to get out of here. And so I really want to just, like, slowly ground ourselves. And to start this conversation, I really think we should start it in a heart-centered way. We should really, like, have this conversation coming from the heart because we're talking about some real serious things. Burnout, people talk about burnout so much. They say it like it's nothing, but burnout is actual trauma showing up in our bodies. I like to reframe burnout in my work as worker exploitation. Let's let that sit for a little bit. When you think about, I'm so burnt out. Why are you burnt out? You're burnt out possibly because where you work is exploiting your labor, and when they're not seeing you as a human being, they're not seeing you as a full person, and so therefore you're working 18-hour days on sets, 14-hour days, you're going, you're not resting, and so this is violence on our bodies, this is trauma, and so when you get to a place of where someone's burnt out, what does that look like and what does that mean? And then the attention crisis, like that our time is literally being stolen from us, from external forces. So we want to like illuminate like what's really happening and really take away the idea that it's just something that's happening to us and we got to do better. We got to take off more time. We got to do this. So let's really start this conversation. I want to ask everyone, how is your heart feeling right now? How is this showing up in your storytelling? We're all storytellers and artists. But really, how is your heart feeling right now? This is a time we're living in. Maybe we can sit with that question, and it's a big one. How is it showing up in your storytelling? Maybe it'd be another way to come at it. Like, how is that showing up in your work and your storytelling in your life? Like, what's the heart feeling right now? We rush so much, and I want to really center it right there and just to begin the conversation.
Well, I fucking love this. This is very similar to, first off, I gotta say something to your heart. Saheem the Dream, what's up, boy? Your mama was telling me about you. Keep going.
Yeah, 15.
Keep doing what you're doing, 15.
Taking notes.
Young, black, and gifted, okay. But the question you asked is not dissimilar to something I would do in many of my respected drama schools. And when I'm teaching acting or whatever, I do it. And I can't speak to where my heart's at in my work, you know, until I speak to where my heart is right now, in the present. I don't want to push myself there. So right now, I'm looking at this young brother over here. Did we meet last night? Because you went to North Carolina School of the Arts. Yeah, so that makes me feel real vibrating. Because I came from there too, and I know that place. And last night, when you and the homies showed up, we was moving. It was fast. He was like, John, you gotta go, you gotta go. I was like, wait, hold your horses. I gotta touch these brothers. And I don't think I did that properly. So I'm doing it now in this heart space, since I'm being coached up to be in this heart space. What's up? It's good to see you. Tell me your name again. Christian. My motherfucking homie right there. And I'm sitting next to these beautiful artists. And I'm looking at all y'all who made the trip to come down here in the cold. And I'm a little vibrating. I feel like I could cry. I feel like I could sing. And I'm really in the room now. Versus the hustle of, I saw y'all over there looking at us taking pictures. We over there doing the fucking, art bar of the guy. Right. He's got his cup, right? Yeah. All the bullshit. But yeah, I'm here now. I'll pause with that. Thank you for offering that. And what's up, everybody? Wicked.
Well, this is, being here is kind of the result of, I wouldn't say exactly a burnout, but it was a career shift for me. You know, I've been doing the same thing that I've been doing, making books and illustrations and comics for about 30 years. Like, started out when I was a teenager, and since that time, I've been basically sitting in a room by myself, making the work, sending it out into the world, and letting it just happen like that. Being here with the movie that I wrote was the result of a conscious change to say, I want to try and collaborate for the first time. I want to entrust other people for the first time. I want to benefit from the artistry of other people. So for me, to end up here at Sundance as a result of that project feels like a real reward of that, for that risk I took. Yeah.
I'm gonna come back to the risks, but thank you for bringing that up. When we're thinking about where the heart is, to say that you're in a moment where you're leaping, just faithful.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, my heart is very full because I'm here because of a project that was just a passion project that I never expected would be at Sundance. And it's something I worked on all through COVID. When having written about food for 50 years, when COVID started, I thought this is going to be the moment that things change in the food system. And I started calling farmers and fishermen and chefs and ranchers and all the people who produce our food and just saying, tell me what this time is like for you. And I was just doing it to keep a record because, for a lot of farmers, they depend on restaurants. And when restaurants close, their whole livelihood goes away. So I was worried about, are they going to survive? And like, none of us expected that this crisis would go on for a long time. And I was just keeping a record. And then as it went on, I developed these relationships with people over Zoom. These really intimate relationships with people that I have never met. And now we've made a film that is essentially what happened to these people. And they're amazing. I mean, farmers, ranchers, fishermen, they are the most amazing people. And they're not anything like most people think they are. They are smart, passionate, hardworking, and really abused by the government. And they are all, I've never met them, and they're all coming to Sundance. And we're gonna have this party, and I'm gonna meet these amazing people who are intimate friends, but I've never seen before. So I'm very excited.
So beautiful. That's amazing. Food and Country.
Food and Country.
Food and Country is screening here. Everyone give it up for that. Adrian, your project is Shortcomings. And then Jonathan, it's tomorrow, right? And Jonathan, Magazine Dreams, right? I really want to talk with you about, I guess my heart is super full. And when she announced that we were going to be having this big conversation, we weren't going to, we didn't just want to complain. I said, I think I do want to say a little bit of something about some things. I want to illuminate the issues that are making us unwell. I want to illuminate the things that are making us be burnt out. I don't think we can have a conversation about burnout and attention crisis and this idea of going nowhere without really taking a step back and really like giving ourselves some grace and really talking about the systems. Ruth and I, we were in the back, we were talking about systems. We got into it a little bit. And so I really want to talk about this idea of burnout as personal, but also as a cultural phenomenon and how we recognize it. You know, I talked with some filmmakers last week who were over at Slam Dance, and we did a whole Zoom about what they were going through. You know, 18-hour days on sets, trying to hustle, trying to make money, trying to keep going, and how the film industry needs to change, and how we think about work needs to change. And so I really would love to hear your thoughts on this idea of burnout and it as a personal, but also as a cultural phenomenon, what you've seen with it in your own work, in your own life, on your own projects, and what do you also think about the idea of burnout being worker exploitation and burnout being really when we get to a point where the violence in our bodies is showing up and we're so traumatized that we can't go on, like what that looks like. And so maybe if anyone wanted to jump in on that.
I can talk about it a little bit. When I was sort of a ways through my career, I suddenly got tapped. I had been a freelance writer most of my life, and I got a chance to take over a magazine. And I'd never been a boss. It was like a very strange idea. And I took over a magazine that had been run from the top down completely, where the 3 editors at the top made all the decisions. And I walked in and said, we're gonna do things completely differently. I took over this very demoralized group of people. And I said, you're gonna decide what we do. I'm not gonna decide. And I don't want you sitting at your desks all the time. If you feel like you need to take time off, take time off. And I worked in a company that believed in creative dissidence, which was if you make people unhappy, they'll work better. And that is the way much of America works, right?
Yes.
You make
I
people,
wonder why.
Yeah. And I think what we proved in those 10 years is that people work better when they're happier. And that if you make the job not about what the job definition is, but what people's talents are, that you say, you don't have to fit into this square peg. I took people who hated what they did, and I said, well, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? And let them do that, and it was amazing. And people would say to me, I love coming to work now. And I think we really need to make all of America understand that if you give people good work, they will like to do it, and they will do it better, and they will be happier, and you will be happier.
I love it. You preach that. Yes. Thank you for saying that. I mean, yes, I want anyone else who feels led off of that to pick up on this burnout idea.
Well, in my case, it was self-imposed. I didn't really have a boss per se. I've been working with the same handful of people. I have a publisher in Montreal I've been working with since I was 19 years old, and just have a really good personal friendship with them. And they really have just, in a way, they kind of spoiled me for this experience of trying to make a movie, because they just said, do whatever you want, turn it in when it's done, we'll put it out. So it was definitely a learning experience. But for me, it was my own, it was something that that career of being a professional cartoonist was like one of those like childhood hobbies, dreams, fantasies that somehow became real. And next thing I knew, I was on this hamster wheel of, I gotta keep this going and finish one book, gotta get started on the next one. And I just got into a real cycle of work. I mean, it would take sometimes many years to finish a book, but as soon as it was done, it was time to start the next one. Go out and promote it at the same.
You didn't do it for the money, right?
No.
So why did you do it?
I don't think, maybe now it's different, but when I started, no one became a cartoonist for the money. I mean, that's probably the worst reason to have done it. It's one of those bizarre things where if any kid had their childhood hobby, whatever it was, suddenly turn into a career, like without them really expecting it, and next thing they know, that was the world they were in. Yeah, it wasn't for the money. It was for the love of the art form. I was really obsessed with it my whole life. But the funny thing is, now that I think back on it, as a little kid, I was equally obsessed with filmmaking, with movies. And the difference, though, is that to make comics, it didn't require a budget, it didn't require equipment, didn't require a crew. I could just sit down and do it. And I think that's how that ended up kind of taking over, was just because I could just sit in my room with a piece of paper and start making comics. But for me, I was my own taskmaster, basically. Like, I was the one saying, you got to keep. I kind of learned on the job. I started getting published at way too early of an age, and it's like really embarrassing stuff that's out there. Yeah. And so I was constantly feeling like I got to learn. I was friends with, I had kind of like mentors who were older and more experienced, and I was always feeling like I got to reach their level, and I got to learn from them and sort of follow in their footsteps. And that was really what was driving me.
I like this idea of, you said self-imposed, because I wonder what's under that. When we think about, that's what my work really is about. What I'm studying is trying to understand, like, what, either from our families, from the culture, from just how we've been ingrained. My idea is that from the time we are born, we're placed in this system, under this curriculum of capitalism and white supremacy, and both these systems are taking away our divinity as human beings and saying, for you to be okay, for you to be worthy, you have to do. You got to keep going. You're not enough now. Get that to-do list going. And so everything is in collaboration in our system to really make us feel that way. I think a lot about people, immigrant families, and people who are coming from other places, and then my own background as a Black person in America, and my parents telling me, in school, you got to work 10 times harder because you're a Black girl. You got to be on your homework. You got to stay up late. You got to do this. Like, the things that our families and society is pushing on us. That's really when you begin to think about the self-imposed. I think that that's just part of our socialization. So I love that you brought that up because that's something I really am interested in. Jonathan?
Well, this is getting wild. Because I was ready to hop off, which I was saying, and you said that stuff about Mama Bear saying you gotta be bigger, faster, stronger, smarter. Because then I was like, damn, I think I'm in the wrong panel, because like burnout, shit, like, am I burnt out? Do I know what that is? You know what I mean? And I think conditioning, I've been conditioned in a certain way. And also what I want to speak about is the symptoms. The symptoms of burnout, and perhaps the villains of burnout, and it is, to me, it is a lack of passion. If passion is the oil in the car, you can gun that. My mouth, I must not have slept, because my mouth is bad. You know what I mean? My mouth is bad. I was like, whoa, boy, you don't gotta say that. You don't gotta say that, so don't say that. My mom was a pastor, so you know what I mean? But the symptoms of burnout, and the causes of it, lack of passion, I think, a lack of accountability, and a lack of responsibility. And I think that lack of responsibility really gets folks, because those were the things that I was getting my butt whooped for growing up. You know what I mean? Simple as, if you don't want to eat it, don't put it on your plate, boy. That's passion. If you don't want to do it, if you're not ready to do it, don't say yes. But then you got this America thing happening, you know what I'm saying, where it's capitalism and it's this and that. You got to work, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. And some people just built a certain way and they can just run. But it's passionless and they burning up their engines. And sometimes they leave us early. That's scary. And then the disappointment that comes when you do work hard, when you do push yourself, when you do stay up late, when you do go to them schools. You know what I mean? Then you realize the meritocracy that you thought you was participating in has completely turned you over. Then what do? You get burned out, don't you? Unless you have the passion. And so my question is, how do we stay passionate about things? How do we stay, well, I mean, I try to stay curious about everything. And I try to stay present about everything. And there's a play called Fences. Come on, y'all. Come on, church. August Wilson, and Troy always says you got to take the crookeds with the straights, which means you got to take the good and the bad, Now, that's something in the West we don't really do. We say good is really good and bad is really bad, when the truth of the matter is life, Jack. And you got to take the crookeds with the straights. Because then what happens? We're a culture, especially in the film industry, especially in the entertainment industry, and I would say it's just a microcosm of the world. And I'm gonna put this mic down in 2 seconds. What ends up happening is we start getting excited about things. You don't realize there's another side to every coin. So when you get excited about something when it's good, the other side of that is what? Being anxious about something if it's bad. And now we begin to poison ourselves. Now we begin to try to make ourselves feel the excitement versus being present and taking it how it comes. Now I got a little girl, and people be like, yo, Jay, you don't get excited. I was like, I try not to get excited, but that little girl gets me excited. You know what I mean? And that's okay. I'm not saying we should be a culture that doesn't get excited, but we should be we could practice more spending time in the middle. Being present with the discomfort.
Yes.
Because I can tell you, anytime something great has happened for anybody I've seen or myself, it is when we are at a high level of discomfort. Discomfort is not illegal. You know what I mean? I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sweat, tears, I highly recommend it. That is your fuel, And that's the thing. if you don't numb yourself, things begin to count, right? Things begin to count. Yes, you can be happy. You know what I mean? And then you go, that's my passion. It may not be acting. It may be actually talking and listening with people. That level of intimacy. I'm a dog for intimacy. I'm getting in there. You know, yes, I'm an actor. But that is ellipses, because I've talked too long. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, give it up. So many good. It's so many. It's layered. It's so nuanced. It's this idea of the good and the bad. I believe the culture does not teach us or make space for us to exist in that place. It's, to exist in the unknown, to exist in a place that feels kind of like you're falling without a net, and that's how I was raised as well. I was raised by people who made leaping in this faith walk look like it was a dance, like it was easy for them. They were like, how did you do I was raised by Black folks who just saw faith and leaping without a net and moving and being in the space of just, we don't know, but we know. You know what I mean? And so I wonder, when you start thinking about that, like what we could offer. I think what is going to be helpful is community care. I think a lot about community care in the community.
That's right.
I don't talk about self-care at all in my work or my research. I know Ruth and I were talking in the green room about community and how important it was. So,
But before
you go there, yeah.
I want to talk about something else that you both brought up,
Please.
which is parenting. And that I think one of the biggest problems, why we have burnout and expectation is that our parents have laid it on us, right? We did this. We worked hard so you could be better. And, I think that parental expectation is one of the really hard things that we pass on. And
can I maybe piggyback into why that is? Because we live within a patriarchy where we have a father, right? We are in a, y'all, you already know what it is. I'm not gonna take it there, or I might take it there. We are in a patriarchy, and that parent to this day tells us what to do. What's your favorite song? It's the song someone told you. It's the one Spotify playing. That's your favorite song. What you wearing? Whatever so-and-so said you to wear, told you to wear. You know what I mean? How are we supposed to be individuals? And specifically for this group, how the fuck are you supposed to be artists when you listen to John, Jane, Joe, Google, tweet, Facebook, so-and-so and so-and-so?
Yeah.
I'm just speaking to us, right? We are as Henry V says, we are the makers of manners, right? We make shit cool. We push the culture forward.
Yes.
We have conversations about community and how we can talk to our neighbors and talk to our homies and make each other better. You know what I'm saying? You said community care?
Community care.
Yeah, community parenting, community care.
Everything.
Community look after each other.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
No, I love that riff. No, get it back. Bring it back. No, get it.
That was not a mic drop. That was getting the mic away from me.
No, go ahead.
But that really goes to an important thing, which is, I think one of the really pernicious things that's happened in civilization is we now have these little nuclear families instead of communities. And that I was saying earlier that one of the great times in my life was when I was in my mid-20s. My husband and I just decided that our time meant more to us than money. And we left jobs we hated and basically created a kind of commune with a bunch of friends. And 10 of us lived together for 10 years on almost no money. And the idea was that we would eat together, share everything. None of us would have straight jobs that, my husband and I, he worked 6 months, and then I worked 6 months, and then we had the time. And That time of living communally has nourished me for the rest of my life. It was wonderful. And I do not understand why we don't have more group living, raising children, where children are not dependent on two parents, where they have a lot of people to go to, and where you share things in a way that makes it cheaper. When 10 or 12 people are sitting down to dinner, it's a lot cheaper than feeding one family. If you all have kids, you don't have to worry about babysitting. You can share it. One mom can come home and make dinner for all the kids. And ultimately, we moved on. But that experience of owning my own time for 11 years was remarkable. And I just don't understand why there isn't more of that in this country.
Maybe this is a moment for the Nat Bishop to say it's because of the patriarchal, ableist, capitalist, white supremacist culture that we live in that makes individualism look so beautiful when it's not. It's like literally a death cult. Like, we need each other. We will not make it up out of this world without each other. But the culture really makes it so that where we think individualism and doing everything on our own, I don't need anyone. I got the competitive nature, the hyper productivity. I gotta compete, I gotta be better than the next person, I gotta keep going. They don't uplift what it means and what interconnectedness in the world looks like and how we won't make it out of this place without each other, how we come into the world with each other, we're gonna leave up out of here, there's gonna be people helping to assist that. And so this idea of deep, deep community, other cultures get that. I think other cultures get that. I think that can be uplifted more. Like, other cultures get the idea of community and this communal way of living, this community care that we help each other to make it. I think America is in a real crisis when it comes to the idea of individualism, of not helping each other, of that ain't my business, that's what I want to do, I don't want, and so it's really a deep sickness, and I think we don't talk about it enough.
And you talked about what your grandparents were like, and talk about that some, because that's also, for me, the idea that you're also feeding each other, you're growing together. For farmers to share resources,
yes,
would change everything.
You're living together, you're thinking about each other and all that you do. Like, this idea of community care showing up in our projects, what would that look like? On a film set where someone is working 14 hours and they may not be able to drive home because they're so sleepy they're going to crash their car, or this person isn't making enough money and you're making more. Like, what would it look like to be? This is, I think, a moment for us to bring in a conversation around imagination and what it would look like to imagine a rested world, what it would look like to imagine a world where people aren't burnt out, where people don't have the crisis of their attention, where people really can begin to have this radical imagination. I think imagination is a tool that we forget about, but I think as artists and creators, we're like deep in the imagination space. We're in that space of like imagining things that aren't here now. How can we imagine so that it can look like that? What can we do to create this new world that we want to see? And so I think this may be a good opportunity to bring in that question of like, what would a rested world look like? What would a non-burnt out world in space and project and community kind of look like? I think you were already starting with these imaginings of community and communal living, but what could it look like for the industry and for our own work, our own projects, our own lives? Adrienne? I want to think about your New Yorker, your illustrations, and you're writing these things about the pandemic and like these ideas, and how I was reading that when you drew the one that they said we're not at that place yet. We can't print that yet because I don't know if we're post-pandemic. I don't know if we're at the place. Yeah. And so I'm just wondering, in this post-pandemic world, what it could look like and what it could mean to begin to imagine, Yeah,
one thing that I took from that whole experience was the idea of just as an artist, opening myself up to do work of all different levels and of different importance and different stakes, instead of just being, I gotta make this movie, but also doing a drawing in a sketchbook that no one's gonna see, that I'm just doing it just to make something for the day, especially when I was home, during lockdown. And that's something that has been useful to me I was really in a cycle of working for publication. Like everything needed to come out and I needed to get paid for it. It was, I think during the pandemic that I started doing kind of what I started out, doing drawings for myself, which I'd lost sight of over the last 20, 30 years. And that really opened up some part of my brain and allowed me to also, focus on making a movie that's going to show at Sundance, but also, it was just a whole different part of creativity for me that I think can get lost when you're on that hamster wheel of a career. And so I think that's something that was useful for me. And especially with, I've got two kids, and learning from them as artists, seeing that they're not expecting their drawings to be published and waiting to look on Twitter to see what people thought of it or anything like that. They're just enjoying making marks on paper. And so a lot of what I'm doing now is both in screenwriting and in illustration and comics, is trying to kind of trick myself back to that mindset that I had when I started out, where there was no audience, there was no paycheck. There was just some drive in me to do it for some reason, and that created a different kind of work than when you're thinking about, what does this studio want from me, or something like that, So that was one of my takeaways from that.
That's good. The creativity in the time of this attention crisis.
Yeah, well, something also Jonathan was talking about was about the passion, and for me, I had a really strange experience when my last book came out, and it had to come out during the pandemic, and the book tour was canceled, and I was glad. I was glad that the book tour was canceled. I was like, that's a strange reaction. I worked for 2 years on this book, and I want to go out and present it to I should, but I'm kind of glad that I don't have to. And then at the end of the year, within the world of books and comics, people start putting out like the 10 best list. And I started having this very dark secret moment where I'd be like, okay, where am I on, assume, and I was like, that's a horrible assumption that I would.
Were you on the list?
Not always, not always. But some, id part of me thought like, well, where am I on that list? And I was like, I think I've gotten a little comfortable in this zone. Yeah. And so that passion that you're talking about, I think, came from intentionally throwing myself into a discomfort zone, into a type of work that I wasn't familiar with. And, it could have gone bad, and it would have been a disaster for me. But for me, I really loved that experience of, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm tricking these people into thinking I know how to write a screenplay, and okay, all right, and just not knowing what each day was going to bring was a totally different experience. And, finally I had something new to talk about at dinner too, which I think is important.
I love that.
Yeah. Queen, you asked, how to get that communal sharing, that element in our workplaces. And I think, it's okay. I just want to say, it's okay, if you were or are like super competitive, or thinking about the future, or trying to lay shit out for your people, and trying to get your, that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? No shame on you. We all got families. We all got kids. We all come from somebody. Yep. I don't know if that's an unnatural instinct. No. But I also think it's an animal instinct. We are animals. But we have these spirits. And that's the thing that animates us. And I know it animates everybody in this room because we're all artists to a degree. So to farming, I think we have an idea that it's either feast or famine. And on a film set, that's what you feel. Feast and famine. You got the big dog producers, you got number 1, 2, 3 on the call sheet, and you got the grips, right? These guys are in feast, The top dogs are in feast and trying to protect their nut, right? The other guys are in famine and will work their asses off, work their asses to the bone, spend up all that passion in order to essentially take care of their families. There is perhaps a third way, which is this harvesting idea, where if you are a stronger farmer, right, for whatever reason, you've got to, look, if I step out of school, you let me know. I'm in your territory, okay? If you know the thing, it might be better to sow your seed into the younger generation or the one who doesn't know the most, right? So I think there's this idea of mentorship, this conversation between the generations, between everybody's strong in their way, everybody can grow in their way. So then I guess living in a place of vulnerability, where you go, oh no, I got that. Nothing wrong with being confident. You want me to do what? Oh, I got that. You want me to do what? I don't have that. You, come, tell me how. You know what I mean? And that kind of conversation. Now, if you want to go fast, you know this one. You go by yourself. If you want to go far, you go with others. Is that right? Yeah, that's the same. If we take that mentality to our film sets, to our writing rooms, I think that may be one of the many antidotes that we will need in order to kind of bring that. Yeah.
That makes total sense. I want to talk about wellness and just get your personal philosophy of wellness. Jonathan, I know you are a napper. You take naps a lot? Are you into naps?
Yes.
All right. And you also are on social media, which I think is also interesting. Is technology, race, and where we're on. So you don't do social. That's intentional.
That's very intentional.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
What do you think about, like, if I would love for all of you to, like, bring in your personal, like, philosophy of wellness. And thinking about wellness, a lot of times wellness has been kind of co-opted by the systems, but thinking about it from a way of something that's outside of the mainstream, things that your family taught you, things you grew up knowing, things that you've kind of just come upon because you've been experimenting. This is an experimentation. I always think of wellness as an experimentation. What works for you? What has saved your life? What has been there? What is your philosophy around the idea of wellness?
Well, I can tell you that my philosophy is basically that unhappy people are sick and they eat themselves up inside, and that the most important thing for being well, it isn't what you eat or how much you sleep or anything, it's your attitude. And that if you understand that you need to make yourself happy, you will be a well person. I mean, I deeply believe that.
That's a risky proposition. When I think about you saying you just gave up the jobs, you and your husband in 70s were in Berkeley, to say that it sounds so like, yeah, make yourself happy, but I really think that that's such a courageous leap in a faith walk to say, you know what, I am gonna just go and make myself happy, and it's just gonna be, I'm gonna find out what that is that's guiding me. That's really some deep internal unraveling work, and I think that really highlights my idea of wellness as well. It's not something that's on the outside. It's not these external things that you have to buy, the face mask, the spa. We love all those things, but to think about this risky proposition that I'm going to be here in this world and I'm not going to do things that I don't want to do and that I don't like to do, that make me unhappy, the jobs that we hate, the things that we say yes to, the boundaries that we don't have. We just say yes to everything. And so really trying to settle ourselves into that. So I really love that you mentioned that. What about you, Adrian? Do you have a personal philosophy or a family?
I agree with that. I understand that. I also am thinking back to times in my life where I had to do jobs that I didn't want to do.
Absolutely.
That I couldn't make myself happy.
My whole life.
Your whole life. Yeah.
My whole life. I just escaped from that maybe 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, I mean, and the idea of maybe not finding complete happiness, but finding a bit of happiness in something that isn't pleasant or something like that. You know, I can think of very few jobs that I've had that have been 100% blissful, easy, happy, and especially when I was younger, I was doing a lot more work in the advertising industry, which was not artistically satisfying, but was, for someone who drew like I did, was the best way to make money. And so there were, my wife will remember that there were definitely some dark days in that process of, but still trying to find, okay, I'm still, you know, let's put things in perspective here. I'm sitting at a desk drawing a picture. You know, it's for a company that I despise and I want to quit. But, you know, I'm sitting at a desk drawing a picture. It's not that bad. So I think there's some degrees of finding happiness and sometimes having to accept the fact that you gotta tough it out.
Yeah, I mean, let me say that even when I've been doing jobs that I hate, you know, like bussing tables, right? There's a certain pleasure in saying, I'm going to do the best damn job at this that I can possibly do. I can either say, this is a really shit job, and who the hell wants to bus tables? Or I can say, you know, I'm going to find a way to make this okay.
Absolutely. The perspective, the mind shift, like you were saying.
Think about the story you're going to turn it into later. That's what I do.
Yes, use it for some type of information for later. I do that a lot with my work. I'm going to write about this. I'm going to definitely use this in some way. Yeah. Jonathan, do you have a wellness philosophy or something that kind of grounds you, or does it change? Is it experimental?
I really agree with what my esteemed colleagues.
Esteemed panelists.
I really feel that. How can I help? How can I contribute? Yeah, I do believe you got to move your body. You know, I think you only get one. You got to move your body, and you've got to use your mind. You know, like that's really my go-to. You know, everything else is an improv. You know, if you're staying curious, I'm like, let's go here, let's try that. You know what I mean? And but yeah, you got to move your body. And I know it may seem crazy, you know what I mean? But the conversation you're having with this is connected to kind of the picture, but the conversation we're having with our bodies every day is an ongoing dialogue. You know, that thing will tell you things. If you honor it, our bodies can let you in on some secrets, can let you know what you do like, what you don't like. Yes. You know, you're talking about eating. I completely agree with that. If you're listening to your body, if you have an intimate relationship with your body, because your body will say, not that. Or yes, eat all that pizza, boy, all of it. We need it. We've been walking up Main Street for 2 weeks. You need the pizza, eat it, enjoy it. Oh, what, you want a beer? Have the beer. Yeah, but then the body then says, I'm good now. And then what happens? The anxiety comes in, and you know. But if you're moving that body, you know, you get all that. The muscles, the body keeps the score. Anybody? Yeah. So it's in there. You know, the more you move it, the more you shake it, the more you push it, the more you stress it, the better. Nothing wrong with stress. Manage it. Nothing wrong with stress. You can't. I think I don't know if you like Tom Brady, but Tom Brady said, "Oh no, I need tension. I need stress to throw that football down the field. You need a lot of stress and a lot of tension. But you got to focus it. You know. So that's what I would say. Whoop-a. And then I would say, I mean, just the mind. I mean, whatever therapy you have, you don't necessarily got to talk to somebody, but you got to talk to someone. If you feel what I'm saying. That can be yourself in the mirror. You know, I don't think we honor ourselves. You know, what did I write? You know, top of the year like everybody else. Live in your majesty. You know what I mean? Everybody has their own majesty. Everyone has their own little kingdom around them. You got to live in that. Yes. That'll give you peace of mind. You know, and of course we all know the comparative mind is a damned mind. You know, mind your business. You know what I mean? You want to be sad? Look what's going on with somebody else. You want to be angry? Invest too much in somebody else's business, you know, in the wrong way. So, I mean, that connects to the. I'll conclude. That connects to the social media thing.
Okay.
You know, it's like it's really just not my business. You know,
not.
and if I know the way my brain works, I will be in it. You know what I mean? I will be in it. You know, and then what? Then what we gonna do? I done wasted time, energy, and probably ate something crazy.
Yes.
So yeah, if that help, yeah.
I love that. I love this. Honor yourself.
I would say you also had earlier another one of what I think is the answers to health, which is stay curious.
Stay curious.
And do things you don't know how to do.
Yes, I
Like,
love that.
you know,
and be okay with failing. I love to fail. It's like one of my favorite ways to learn about myself. People are like, I'm not afraid to fail. Like, it really is such a learning opportunity. It really allows me to be curious and like intuitive and move in a way that will allow me to be like, okay, this wasn't it, but what else could it be? And so I think as an artist, I'm really interested in what failure could do for us and what trying something out that you're not good at, like even though you're not good at it, just keep trying. And this point of you saying, honor your body and listen to your bodies, we don't honor ourselves enough. That really it grounds my entire work with the NAP ministry, is this idea that our bodies are a site of liberation. Like wherever our bodies are, it doesn't matter what the systems say, what they're saying to you, what they're doing to you. If you are in tune and honoring this divine body that you have, that you can say, no, I'm listening. My body says no. I know you say yes, but I'm saying no. And so this idea of what resistance could look like in a world where we like honor and connect with our bodies. And so the more we exhaust it, the more that we are burnt out, the less that we are connected with our bodies. We're totally disembodied. We don't even know what our bodies need or want because we're just going.
Well, the body tells you, right?
It tells you exactly.
And then what? And if you listen, and if you don't listen, it'll stick with you because all of a sudden something's tight. You know what I mean? Something's really tight. But then what happens is in the work, what can potentially happen is just mentally you say, okay, this is what I'm just speaking from experience. You go, okay, I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to try to listen. And if something comes up, I am then going to apply my faculties to deal with it, right? Communication is not conflict. I'm just going to say that again. Clear communication is not conflict. You know what I mean? That's a whole different side of the coin, isn't it? Next year. But the body will tell you, your jaw clench up. Boo thing will say something, your jaw clench up. He's like, no, baby, I actually just don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Well, why? And then you grow. There's vulnerability in that. You know what I mean? By honoring it, you protect it, right? You protect it. Director says something crazy, you go, well, I don't really know what you mean by that. You know what I mean? Versus, yeah, I got it, let's go. Like, I don't really know what you mean by that. Because what's happening is my body's going, you're in danger, socially, spiritually, physically. Fix it. And then we have that spirit that says, talk to your brother, talk to your sister, figure that out, which leads to this idea of community. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You preaching that. You brought that back. That was like a 3-point sermon. You brought it back.
My mama is a pastor.
But she taught you well. My dad is a pastor too, so we're
PKs.
Yeah, PKs for life. Always. So we have a moment if people would like to ask some questions. And I want to talk a little bit about questions. I want to talk a little bit about honoring ourselves in questions. I've been in so many conferences. And it's a good time for people to do monologues. You know what I'm saying? We don't want 3, 4, 5-point questions. We want like a real beautiful, concisely, landed question that can honor our time and so we can get as many voices in the room, because I really do want this to feel like a learning lab and bring all the voices in. We're up here. We're not the experts. We're just trying to share. And so I would want to know what you would want to be most. I wonder if some of the producers could help me try to pick the people or kind of help me kind of manage this. If people are raising their hand, if there's someone, where's Glenn? Maybe Glenn could help me out. Yeah, thank you. Just say it as loud as you can. We're not going to use mics, so just try to offer it, and I'll try to help repeat it back if I can.
Great panel. I'm an aspiring film producer, volunteer at Sundance High. I'm curious exhaustion, but the necessity in terms of the modern way of messaging and connecting with people in industries like this. How do the two work together?
Boundaries. Did everyone hear that question? Everyone hear her question? Sorry, I
No,
jumped right in.
please, go ahead, help
Yeah,
me.
boundaries. Boundaries. Right? Good fences make good neighbors. You know what I mean? I'm only here because, well, I don't know where she at, because I have a publicist. You know what I mean? Which puts me in this, I mean, I know when I'm trending. I'll tell you that much. You know what I mean? That's the truth of it. But there's a boundary between, look, girl, do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? I don't shit on social media. I just go, I don't do it. You know what I mean? I'm not anti-social media. I just go, it's not for me. You know what I mean? But I have my ways of dealing with it, right? Like, I'll put a boundary up there. It's not personal. If it's business, it's business. I mean, and we all know how to handle our business, so, you know.
I love the word boundary because that's, yeah, I think a lot of times we want to talk about the exhaustion issue. You know, everyone in the culture is sleep deprived. It's a public health issue. We know this we are sleep deprived as a culture. And I think a lot of times because we don't have healthy boundaries. And so a lot of our work is to begin to do whatever self-healing, individual, community healing that we need to do that allows us to not feel like we can have a healthy boundary around something, you know, be a people pleaser. That all goes back. This is an invitation for you to begin to heal what that's from. But the boundaries in this culture and consent in this culture are very limited. And so I think when we talk about how do we heal from burnout, how do we kind of start thinking about sleep deprivation and what it's doing to us, the attention crisis, how our attention is really being stolen from us. A lot of it is we don't have boundaries. We don't have any, and we just allow any and everything to go forth. We don't have any type of limits around our time on social media. We don't have any type of limits around our email about what we do. It's just yes, yes, yes. And so that is something that's very unique to each person that you're going to have to go and do to the wells of your own body and spirit and your own families and how you were raised to kind of begin to unravel why you have no boundaries, why it's hard for you to create them, why the people pleasing is there, why that feels, it feels kind of weird to have a boundary and to kind of like uphold it, because really boundaries are about respect. And so I will offer that's really what I've been seeing in my work is that people have none. And so they become so overwhelmed and they're doing everything for everyone else. But to have that is really key to like this idea of wellness and care.
On the topic of social media, I would just say that I don't know that it necessarily has to be thought of as an all or nothing proposition. That I wasn't on any kind of social media for a long time, and then at my publisher's request, I joined Instagram to just get information out there, and I didn't do anything beyond that. I'm not on any other platforms or anything, and it was fine. It's not like I'm not engaging in arguments with with people or anything like that, and it's it can be very manageable, I think, and it satisfied that professional aspect. My publisher was like, "You're doing a great job," I was like, that wasn't so bad, and I really thought it was going to be this Pandora's box of I'm staying up all night arguing with some guy in,
Boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think it's not hard to do. Yeah.
Let's get some more questions in. Oh, with so many, Glenn. Good luck.
Jonathan, but anyone talking about the transition into the industry. So, Jonathan, you were from UNCSA, right?
Yes.
I'm in my last year there.
At NCSA?
Yeah.
Mm.
I just want to ask you about kind of when it comes to boundaries and avoiding burnout, or if you didn't, then what that transition into working in the industry and that hustle culture of needing to get your foot in the door in any door and every door. Kind of what that experience was for you.
What year are you? You're in your fourth year. You're out. How many more months we got till the trimester's over? You got 3-4 months. Okay. First thing I would say is the industry is a concept, right? It's for everybody. homies. You start now. If I would have got you first year, when you were 1, I would say, oh, this is. Someone said to me at school, oh, we get into the real world, and I lost my mind. I said, real world? What you think this is? What the quantum? What? You know what I mean? So so sweetheart, it's already on. I don't say sweetheart because she went to my school, not because no crazy shit, all right? It's already on, right? And the transition is literally moving yourself from one place to the next, right? Begin to examine your ambition now. I'm not saying modulate it. Just sit it up there and look at it and see what it is you, tell me your name? Maya. Vaya? Maya. What it is Maya wants to do, who Maya wants to be, right? And if that door is not going to get you to that, don't go through it. Period. It's, at this point, it's subtraction. You've been trained. I know where you've been trained. It's subtraction at this point, right? You're loaded up. You go, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not. And then when you get that door that's yes, you go. Open-hearted, full-throated, you go, Does that make sense? This is a longer conversation, but you feel me? Okay, cool.
I want to honor the white hat right here, sir, because you had your hand up immediately. Before I even asked the question, you were like, I'm here, so please.
Thank you so much. Question for Jonathan. I was the other UNCSA student from...
Wicked.
UNCSA students here.
The Yaleys don't show up. They don't even show up. Don't cut.
So I was directing program. I'm actually directing my first feature in a couple months. From your experience, like, do you have any advice for a director? Like, is there anything that I could do to help prevent or at least limit burnout amongst, like, my cast?
I mean, you're the captain. You're the captain. You may have a quarterback. You're number one, but you're the captain. You're the coach. Your passion is we see it all the time. Hoosiers, etc. Your passion is going to be what builds that world and what gets those people through. They all have their own ambition, right? But your passion and your focus, right, will give them a reason, right? If it aligns with them, I would say if you're doing any interview processes, I would ask them, so why do you want to make the project? What do you see in that project? If you guys align, or if he or she ignites your interest, or vice versa, roll with it. And they'll probably feed with each other, and you'll run. Build the world, be passionate, don't big dog nobody. You already got the hat on. You look like the director. We understand, you know what I mean? But also, you hold that motherfucker steady, you know what I mean? You hold that set steady, whatever that means, with kindness. Does that make sense? All right, cool.
It's good. Yeah, right there.
Hi guys, thank you for being here. Jonathan, I didn't go to UNC School of the Arts, I'm from Wilmington, but I'm from North Carolina.
Wicked.
So I work multiple jobs in nonprofit organizations, and oftentimes when I get burnt out, I'm like, well, I'm young, I still have my whole life to live, but I'm curious for you guys, kind of working in an industry that constantly pulls you in different directions, like what tools do you use to kind of like slow down and reset?
That's a good question. I want to say, piggyback on what he was saying about knowing where you want to go and what you want to do. I probably say no to 90% of the things asked of me. Anybody who's come in my email, there's like the autoresponder is basically beautifully written, no, just no. I'll get back to you when the spirits align and I feel that this is something for me. Like I actually say that, like don't follow up, don't circle back. You can ask, you've seen it, yeah. I did. And I think when you are so clear and you use, not that you have to be clear at this moment right now because we're always evolving, where everything is changing, we're always in the world, but the more that you can center yourself in your own body and listen and really stay in the imagination space about what you want for your career, your life, your family, your everything, it will be so much easier to know what's for you. It's like very deep intuitive work to be able to be like, that sounds so good. And it's not easy. I won't say it's easy at all. It's going to be very, very difficult. I'll put that out there right now. It's going to be very difficult to say no to things because you're going to have this sense of scarcity. Like the culture teaches us this idea of a scarcity model. If you say no to that, will something else come? Will I be able to do this? You really got to begin to unravel from the idea of scarcity and know that you are abundant, that what's for you is going to be for you, that what's going to be for your life, nothing can take it from you. No human can take it from you. It's for you. And so the more you can slow down and listen and find moments of just resetting, I would say 10 minutes in the morning, do a little meditation. Don't answer an email immediately. Let things marinate and meditate a little bit. Trust yourself and trust that you're on the right path of study. You're on the right path of what you want to do with your life, that you have a vision for your art, for your career. And the deeper you can trust, it's going to be very difficult. People are going to be pulling you from, people get mad at me when I tell them no. Like my publishers right now probably they're like, what are you doing? My book came out October 11th, and it made the New York Times bestseller list, and then for 2 months, I went underground. I went on a Sabbath. I was like, you will not be able to find me. If you email me, good luck. And they were like, what are you doing? I was like, I need this moment for me, and I trust that no matter what I do, things will be okay. And so I just can offer that you trust more, that you spend time deepening into trusting what you have for your path. Of course. Thank you, guys. I want to get some questions over here. I feel like, and then the hat, the P, and I want you next, but I want to also get some questions this side of the room. What about you right there with the blue and white? The coats, yes.
Well, I'm just going to
The
continue
coats.
with the Colts, yeah. But I'm going to continue with the North Carolina.
Oh my God, Jonathan.
I go to Elon down there.
Elon, what's up? My homie went there. Yeah.
So my question is for Jonathan. I think to go in. Within the last few years, you've been doing a lot of large-scale blockbuster projects. I'm curious if has the stress from going from one project to the next impacted you greatly?
No. It is stress, right? But you grow, and I'm a napper, and your questions are kind of connected because I'm very curious about what makes me tick, as I'm as curious about what makes you tick and what makes you a fan of the Colts.
Oh my God.
But we can talk about that later. You know what I mean? No, but with all the again, that's the industry conversation, right? Yeah. I'm an actor. I'm a storyteller. If you put an IMAX camera up, you put an iPhone camera up, I'm gonna do the same thing. Right. You know what I mean? That takes discipline, right? That takes real mental fortitude to say, I'm not drinking this Kool-Aid. Yes, I'm not doing it. You telling me I'm not doing it? I'm staying in line with my purpose, right? I've set my ambition up years ago, and I've said, okay, what doors do we go through? What are we gonna do? This stuff changes. It's frustrating. You will mess up. I have messed up. Yeah. But also, the grounding, staying grounded, having things that just make you feel, I'm good. I'm okay. I keep a cup with me everywhere. I also travel with canines. I travel with my dogs. You know what I mean? I walk my dogs. You want to be grounded, sis? Pick up dog shit in the morning. You know what I mean? That'll do it. That'll do it. That will do it. You know what I'm saying? Fully dressed this morning. Fully dressed, walking out. Oh, you know what I mean? You down there? All right, ready to go. Thank you for that. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? I like going to museums. You know what I'm saying? I take the time I need to do the thing. I'm honoring myself. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you like this? Great. In order for me to keep doing that, I got to keep doing me. You know what I mean? My work is a byproduct of my self-help, my self-love. It's a byproduct of that. If I get dark, if I get crazy, if I start becoming a slave to an industry, I become a machine.
Preach.
Machines don't think, machines don't feel. Now all of a sudden I can't make a movie. I can't be on stage. I can't talk to y'all like I'm talking to y'all now. You feel me? All right, go Colts.
That's good. Yeah, we got you.
So how do you deal, this is really just, I guess, for anyone.
Okay.
I have a hard time answering that because I'm still figuring that out myself. I think that's an ongoing struggle because I think that competitiveness brought me to where I'm sitting right now in a lot of ways. It also, made me unhappy a lot of times in my life, I think. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer, but other than to say that I have that struggle.
Yeah.
My answer would be know that you'll come out of it. When they closed my magazine, 65 people I really cared for were out of business, and I spent the better part of a year beating myself up and saying, why didn't I stop that? What could I have done? And, in the end, failure is, it has real value, and you have to be as kind as you can to yourself and know that ultimately you'll get past it. But I don't think there's any way to avoid it.
That's a great answer. The grace and the care and the love of each other and ourselves really is gonna save us. And so don't lose that, the fact that you think that way is making me think that you care so much about your people and others around you, that you want them to have things. Like that's not anything to be mad at. That's a deep, beautiful thing to love and care and want others around you to have that.
Yeah, you would not want to be that person who didn't feel that way.
That shows really deep love. So I'd say stay with that and just try to give yourself as much grace as you can. Slow down some too. Yeah. I just got the signal, we got about 15 more minutes, so I want to get the P hat, yes, and then the hand way in the back will be up second, okay? And then
That P hat is a pirate's hat.
Thank
I'll
you
have
for knowing
questions
the
for you
sports.
after.
Hi. First of all, thank you for this room. I think in a space that can induce the very burnout we're talking about, I'm really grateful for this room. I feel really grounded in my seat here, so thank you.
Wicked.
My question is about faith and higher power. And I think I'm hearing all of you feel that underneath everything you're speaking about, especially the conversations about body and intuition. I think a lot of the burnout that I feel is often inspired by atrophied or tired faith muscles and thinking about having to take all the yeses in order to hit the highest odds and break through the door instead of attract that door and find my people. And I'm really working that muscle this weekend, and I'm really interested in anyone's experience of higher power, your practice with that in connection to your intuition, and how that connects to making decisions in a very machine-like industry. How do you connect those two things?
Great question. Deep question, Jonathan. I don't know if you want to sit with that for a little bit, or you talk a lot about the body and the moving and the body-mind connection. You said the body keeps the score. You brought up that beautiful book about trauma in the bodies and the somatics of it all. A lot of my work talks a lot about that, the idea of the culture doesn't make space for us to have deep, deep radical faith. Because to have deep, deep radical faith is really to be an outlier in this culture, to trust something outside of what's in front of you, to trust something outside of a check, to trust something outside of a quote-unquote industry, to really deeply trust yourself in a culture like this. It doesn't teach us that. It doesn't teach women that. It doesn't teach people of color. It doesn't teach disabled people that. It doesn't teach people who love differently. The culture really, if we can settle into this, I know this may seem harsh, but it really is teaching us and supporting that we don't love ourselves. The more you can be unloving to yourself, the more you're easier to manipulate. And so I love that you brought up the question of faith and the idea of your life really being a faith walk. I think in my book I talk about
you getting there.
In my book I talk about my ancestors and how they really leaped without a net so many times. They knew what was happening to them they didn't know what it could be, but they knew that it wasn't this. So I think knowing that this ain't it, and I don't know what it's gonna be, is this beautiful space that I like to reside in, and I would like to offer that to you. Like, maybe your body knows what you're feeling and what all the pushing of it is doing to it. It feels wrong, but you continue on because you got to keep going, because you want to get that opportunity, you got to network, you got to get the job, you got to pay the rent, and so to honor and slow down for a minute and to have a moment to be like, what does my body want? What do I want? What does the Creator want? What would my ancestors want? What do I want? What, to really settle into that could be a hard place to be in. And so I would say listening and slowing down and finding some way to really boost yourself up to be a resistor. This isn't going to be easy work at all. So you're going to have to boost yourself up in whatever ways that really soothe and support you to be able to stay in that dream space, to stay in that faith space. I don't have a real concise answer to be like 1, 2, 3, do that. But I just think the more you can boost yourself up and have people around you who want to see you win and want to boost you up as well, like that's the building of community is important.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons it's so difficult to give a concise answer is because the answer is quite personal. You know what I mean? So whatever this idea, whatever it is you feel, that faith thing, that higher, whatever it is, that's your business. You know what I mean? That's between you and it, them, her, she, whatever, right? It's that tiny little voice, right? And I just want to say two things. It's patience, right? And it's practice. Because you know, bro, when you're in pocket, right? Practice. You got to practice it. You know what I mean? Just a little bit at a time. And what ends up happening is you start attracting soldiers around you, right? And so it becomes easier. You know what I mean? You get people go, oh, okay, cool. My whole team is built off of that. You know what I mean? Where I go, you. Don't mean any problems with them. They're not lemons, I guarantee that. You know what I mean? The best in the business, you know what I mean? But, and friends and family, you go, oh, okay, you, right? And maybe it's just one at a time, and then you decide, no, I'm gonna do this. But whatever it is, you are wearing that P on your head, boy. Don't you forget patience and practice. That's it. Is that, you got enough? You filled up? Okay, all right. Woo.
I think we need to sit with that. Let's sit for a little bit. I think this is such a nuanced conversation. It's so layered. We're not going to leave out of here with having the answer. I don't think there is an answer. I think there's just space to have conversation, space to feel, space to have a moment to breathe, to have a moment of silence, to ground ourselves, and to really honor the fact that we are here. We're alive. We're here on earth. We're artists. We're making art. We're creators. We're makers. We're able to tap into that imagination space. I really support and uplift artists as being the people who will really change the world, who think differently, who think in a way that is hopeful. And so I got the sign that we're about 5 minutes out before we're going to close. And so I see the hand still popping up. I bet what hand is popping up that's not from North Carolina? Okay, I thought this area, you guys were all together. Right here, yeah, brother, right there. Let me get your voice in here.
My name is Noah. I'm a student at the University of San Diego, and I'm a screenwriter myself. And the big problem for me is a lot of my burnout comes from my perfectionism and my quest to be perfect. That's kind of like something I've grown up with. You gotta get the 4.0 GPA. You gotta be perfect. You gotta be on time. So then, for me, when I get to start writing and stuff like that, I can block my own blessings, I feel like, and kind of get too caught up in, is it perfect? Is it right? Is it, 100%, especially with like the faith aspect that you're talking about. Yeah. My mom always says, you're blessed and highly favored, and you're destined for something greater. So I'm like, when I'm going to fulfill this purpose, I just want it to be perfect. I feel like I kind of get in my own way when I'm trying to do that. And so I guess, what advice would you have in order to combat that? Kind of get out of my own way in a sense.
What's your name?
I'm Noah.
Noah.
Noah Miles.
And your name is Noah, and then you're talking about your mother dropping all these jewels.
Get him. Just get him. Get him. That's a layup.
He set me up. Noah, I want to say this to you, and I want you to try to really take it in. It may not happen right now, but I want you to know that perfectionism is a lie. It's not. It doesn't exist. And because I'm seeing who you are, and I'm seeing that me and you, we're brothers and sisters in this world. White supremacy work culture teaches us that perfectionism is real. It does not exist. So you already are perfect. You already are perfect. You're landing here on earth via your mother and your father and being here picked. You're already a divine soul, so you are perfect. So this idea of placing something and having another goalpost, how can I now be perfect? How can I get to perfectionism? You're already there. You already are enough now. You were born perfect. And so pulling your wheels and pulling yourself and getting blocked and all of those things are just more tools of the oppressor to try to get you caught up and not to see your full purpose. You already are perfect. And so if you already are perfect, your role and your call on this earth is now to continue to try to cultivate a life that is deeply, deeply connected to who you are. You don't have to do anything else. Please come on in, assistant pastor, and break in. Also another one who likes to preach. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say something really not nearly as nice as that, really tough. But as an editor who has spent a lot of time working with writers who couldn't turn it in on time or couldn't turn it in at all because it wasn't perfect.
Right.
Perfectionism is an ego trip. Get over it.
Yes. Get over it now. Don't spend another moment of your life and your study on that. Drop it today. Just do your work. Do what inspires you. Do what feels beautiful. Do what you want, and continue to study and become who you are. Just continue doing what you want to do. What a blessing that you're studying this and that you're in that place to be able to do that. Leave it alone. Let every day tell yourself it's not real. It doesn't exist. So stop trying to reach something that doesn't exist. Go ahead,
I'll say something just on a practical level as a screenwriter, which I've had the same struggles. And for me, the greatest thing was to go back and find this library of interviews with filmmakers that exists. And you find the filmmaker that you thought had the perfect career.
Right.
For me, maybe it's Stanley Kubrick or someone like that. And you read interviews and you think, oh my God, he's so pissed off about that shot that didn't work out. And he got screwed over on this thing. And that happens with any filmmaker. Literally any filmmaker that I've ever worshipped, I've found the interview where they've said something went wrong. They're pissed off, they're disappointed. And I don't think that they would really take great pride in that. But I took a lot of comfort from it, and it really was inspirational to me.
Thank you for sharing it. Yes, I love that. Thank you, Noah. Of course. Glenn, wrap it up. We're on the wrap up now. We could talk. We can go on and on. We will lay out pillows, and we just have tea. And Jonathan has a cup we can share. And if you have any more tea left, a little bit. This has been a beautiful, beautiful conversation. Any final thoughts? Anybody? You've said enough. You've done enough. I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank you guys for saying yes to being a part of this. I want to thank this room for holding space for this conversation. I want to thank all the producers for coming together to make this happen. And at least all of you had a moment during this frantic festival to just kind of sit and chill. And I'm so grateful and honored that you would want to come and hear us and be with us. So thankful for that.
Thank you for moderating.
Thank you.
Thank you, sis.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you all.